Star Citizen patch 320 recently launched, and with it came some subtle changes to salvage gameplay. The Vulture has always been on the smaller side, without sufficient cargo space on board to carry all the scrap from larger targets, but the increased time to salvage does impact things. I'm Forrester, and this gameplay video shows the salvage and scrapping of a Hercules with the Vulture, as well as showcasing one of the challenges that Star Citizen players occasionally face. Much of the footage has been sped up to keep the overall length down, and those parts have been clearly marked as such, but since there's a lot of salvage to be done, let's get started. And getting started always involves selecting the mission, in this case for a Crusader M2 Hercules over at Her L4. Mission selected, it's a simple case of navigating to the destination, which is made all the more simple by use of quantum travel, and in this case, some sped up footage once we make the jump. Interestingly, in patch 320 there are some minor UI differences between previous versions, which may mean that this looks a little bit different from what you're used to depending on when you last played. And at this point we speed up to 12 times to make the quantum trip a little faster. As it is quite early in the patch cycle, usually I would salvage ships that were close to me. However, in this case I know that I want to end up in Lorville on Herson, and so I've selected something that's a little further away. The stock quantum drive on the Vulture is still a little on the slow side. However, with the wonders of 12 speed, we are making our way a little bit closer to our ultimate destination, another short quantum hop, and then an SCM travel into the destination. And then the Hercules comes into sight. A little bit of boost, overshot ever so slightly. Nice view of the station there in the background with the sun. Beautiful. And then it's a case of starting to salvage. So we did start with some cargo already in the hopper for this. About half of the progress bar was already complete. And the first thing that many of you will notice if you've not yet tried salvage in patch 320 is that this is much slower than in previous patches. It remains to be seen whether this is a bug or intentional. There is an issue logged on the issue council, so I suppose time will tell. But this does very much change the nature of salvage in that the amount that you can earn per hour has dropped as a result of this change. That said, the core loop of salvaging ships, slowly stripping away the hull, is still just as satisfying. So if that's what you enjoyed about the salvage mechanics, fear not. It's still just as good in this patch, it just will take you a little bit longer between moving boxes. Others amongst you might notice that as the filler box is full, the Vulture here is very undersized to take all of the salvage from a ship as large as the Hercules. And I apologise as well for this bug here. Every time I get out of the pilot chair it hops into external view. I have no idea why. But yes, the Vulture is a little bit too small for all of the cargo from a Hercules. As the pilot is ejected out of the ship, another wonderful bug. However, for this mission I'm okay with the fact that the Vulture is too small. I'm just looking to fill up the Vulture and call that quits for this play session. And yes, I've got a selection of weapons on the back of the ship. They're all going to have to go. So others amongst you might be wondering why I haven't stripped the weapons from the Hercules or even the cargo. The reason for that is this server that I'm on at the moment is not letting me sell the weapons at all, and if I can't sell them, there's no point in stripping them. Let's move that box out. And as for the cargo perspective, there is a really nice quality of life change in 320 that when you pick up cargo with your multi-tool, you know what it is that's in there, which is fantastic for very quickly deciding what you want to take and what you don't want to take. However, because I didn't bring a cargo ship with me, because it's just the Vulture, and because I'm enjoying the salvage side of things, I thought, you know what, I'll leave the whatever cargo is on there, and I'll just do the salvaging. For longer runs where you want to get the absolute most out of a ship, you absolutely want to be bringing some sort of a cargo ship along with you to be able to make the most of that, or alternatively, just arrive at the destination, load up fully, fly away, and then chances are you probably still have that salvage contract to be able to head back here. And here the combination of the slower speed of the extraction laser and my preference for being a bit of a completionist and not leaving little bits of hull unclaimed does mean that progress is a little slow. Still, that satisfying orange glow showing that you're on target and slowly melting away the hull, still good. The contract for the Hercules was 50,000 Alpha UEC, so I also know in the back of my head as I'm doing all of this that as long as I can fill up the Vulture, the contract has paid for itself, so I'm having a good time. I only need to fill up the Vulture with boxes to be able to get that contract to pay for itself. As a ballpark rule of thumb, it's a little bit less than 8k for a box of salvage, so multiply the number of boxes that you want by 8 and you've got a rough rule of thumb to say how much is that worth. I think it's like 7.6 something, 7.67 or something, but in the back of my head I'm just thinking each box is worth 8,000. Poor majestic Hercules met an unfortunate end, slowly chomped away by this Vulture. So at this point I can see that the cargo is 92% full into the hopper, so I'm just keeping an eye on that so that as soon as it fills up, I'm ready to click off the laser and head down. And there it is, click off the laser, head down. As before, you'll be graced with a beautiful external view of the Vulture for a bug that I can't explain and haven't been able to replicate since. And then we head down to start juggling boxes. So I did consider, do I do a different recording session for you to kind of discount this bug, but actually I thought, you know what, this is a realistic session. This is me doing what I do, which is playing Star Citizen and sometimes encountering things that cause challenges as we stack the cargo boxes. Something isn't quite right there, so we'll try just restacking that. There we go, that seems to have lined the grid. So we'll head back up to the cockpit. So once you've seen a little bit of salvage, I feel like you've seen most of what happens for the rest of this session. So what I will do is, as we hop back into the pilot seat, I'll actually speed up the rest of this footage. You're still watching in real time, nothing has been cut, it's just sped up to the 12 times speed, and it makes the salvaging appear to go much, much faster. I always find the Hercules is quite a tough ship to choose a technique for salvaging, because it's got quite a complicated shape. For something like the Hammerhead, I find that quite straightforward, because there's kind of the flat top, the flat bottom, and then the in-betweeny bits. The Hercules has just got like all these curves and angles, and if you are a perfectionist, it can be quite easy to miss a bit, and I'm sorry to say, I am a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to this, so I end up a little bit all over the place as I'm trying not to delve too far from the beaten track. So you like watching this in times 12 speed, the whole process seems very slick and smooth, satisfying. I think it's probably helped by the fact that I'm not using the gimbals on the salvage heads, so you see the smooth kind of movement of the ship. Yeah, lovely. Right, you'll notice that we've slowed down from times 12 speed, and that's because things have stopped working as intended here. Not getting anything through into the hopper. That freeze, so you know what's coming. 30k disconnection. So I thought I would share this. This can happen. It's Star Citizen. You'll see the kind of recovery from it, but it happens to everybody. This server was one that I was on for maybe 3 hours before this happened, so I got a good kind of chunk of playtime before it did occur. But the 30Ks, they plague us all. So that said, the 30k protection is actually quite nice in these more recent patches. So we'll retrieve the Vulture. It's automatically delivered to the hangar. Didn't need to do a claim or anything like that. Head down to the hangar and see what the situation is. See how much of that salvage we retained. What better way than opening the rear door and taking a peek? And you can see that's filled with boxes, so that's quite reassuring, especially for these salvage type contracts where you have to pay for the salvage rights. I was 50k out of pocket for that contract. So if this crash protection, 30k protection, whatever you want to call it, didn't exist, that would be 50k gone. Whereas at least with the protection, although the claim has gone and that 50k has gone, the Vulture is still here, the stuff that has already been salvaged is still here, which makes it slightly more palatable. In this case, I had enough boxes on the back to warrant actually going selling up, and I'll make back that 50k, so I've not lost anything, I suppose, other than time on this route. But given that the Vulture was already almost full and I was going to have to go back anyway, that's not the worst thing. So as those hangar doors open, we'll head out. Some of you will remember I said I wanted to be at Lawville, but I am back at ArtCorp. Never mind. At least it's quick to sell up as we go to times 12 speed to fly into Area 18. Float down through the clouds. Just seeing the spaceport through the clouds. There it is, Riker Memorial Spaceport. Request our landing bay. You'll have the joy of watching me clumsily land the Drake Vulture. So in this case, the landing bay that we've been assigned is actually one of these subterranean ones where the hangar doors open at the top and reveal a below ground hangar, so that means heading down into the hangar bay, watching out for the street lamp. And then for ships like the Vulture, where they've got the long arms, I sometimes find it's helpful to get the arms in and then head down, because you kind of know that once the arms are in, assuming they're giving you the right size hangar bay, which they do, that you should be okay, and then gently set her down. Engines off. Not bad, not bad. So I know that a lot of people like to land in third person, so you can kind of see all that stuff around you, or alternatively use the auto land feature. All of that is fine for me, and my immersion. I suppose I always like to land in first person. There's just something a little bit more satisfying about that for me and for my flight style, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with people that choose to do it their own way. So for this part, I've actually chosen not to speed up the footage here as we run past somebody, and that's because I really wanted to showcase, particularly for any of you who haven't been in Star Citizen for a while, Area 18 ArcCorp has had actually some really nice visual changes. So there's little things, subtle things, like all this signposting that you can see that clearly guides you where to go. That's to help with the new player guide. But there is also this really nice cloud tech, which, even though the rest of the kind of textures don't look any different, the way that the clouds add to that is quite nice. So as we wait for the tram, I'll actually show that tram journey into the ArcCorp Plaza, and hopefully you'll see what I mean, that actually visually the clouds make the location kind of pop just that little bit more than perhaps it did before, even though it's exactly the same location. Or I should say mostly the same location. It has been detailed a little bit nicer. You don't have quite the same messy highway here that used to exist. Alright, here we go for the tram ride in. See those clouds overhead? I think they just add so much to the location. It's suddenly, I don't know, it's a lot more alive than it was before. You see these buildings, they don't feel like they've been retextured drastically or anything like that, but just having that skyline feel a bit more natural is... Oh, I'm a fan. I am a fan. There we go, tram slows down to come into the ArcCorp Central Plaza. You see all of the advertisements, all of the holograms. And there we are now approaching. So I know you've all probably done your fair share of tram rides in this game, but I did just want to chat that through because it does feel a little different to some of the older patches, and even just a tram ride sometimes when you're admiring the view can feel special in Star Citizen. That's one of the good things about it. You've seen some of the rough and ready bugs in this patch that do cause challenges, as there's a huge gathering of NPCs there, but as much as the bugs do cause challenges, there are some nice visual moments as well. And so at this point we'll head to the terminal to sell up. Remember, it was 50k that we spent for the contract for the M2. So we've got 11 boxes. The first 3 sell for 23k. And then the next 8 sell for 61k. So there was a small profit within that. I mean, that's okay. Nowhere near the potential profit from completely scrapping the system, but that will do okay. So that's some 320 salvage gameplay, a lot slower than the 319, but the core of it is still enjoyable. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're not already subscribed, you might want to press that. And if you do enjoy these gameplay videos, a like would let me know to show you more. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.